October 2nd, 1187. Saladin holds absolute power over Jerusalem. 60,000 people await his decision. 88 years ago, Christians massacred 70,000 here. Everyone expects revenge. What he does next will shock the world. This is the story of the warrior who conquered with mercy, the Sultan who won Jerusalem and lost it with honor. From this documentary, you will learn how Saladin balanced political necessity with religious principles. Compare the 1099 Crusader conquest with the 1187 Muslim reconquest. How did Saladin become a hero even in Christian Europe? How do different cultures remember the Crusades today? Educate about a pivotal historical moment with accuracy and nuance. Preserve important historical memory from multiple perspectives. Encourage viewers to see enemies as human beings worthy of dignity. From which country are you watching this video right now? If you love Islam, if you want to hear the most incredible true story from our blessed history, then subscribe to this channel right now and join our growing family. We work incredibly hard to bring you this authentic stories that will strengthen your faith and fill your heart with awe. So please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you do not want to miss what comes next. To understand Saladin, we must understand the world he was born into, a world at war. In 1099, European Crusaders conquered Jerusalem. They called it liberation. Muslims called it invasion. The massacre of 1099 was traumatic for the Islamic world. Contemporary sources describe the streets running with blood. The Al-Aqsa Mosque became a killing ground. This wasn't war, this was slaughter. The Crusaders didn't just take Jerusalem. They created kingdoms. For Crusader states, now occupied land that had been Muslim for 450 years. From the Crusader perspective, they were reclaiming Christian Holy Land. From a Muslim perspective, they were foreign invaders. These two narratives would clash for 200 years. In 1138, in the city of Tikrit, a boy was born who would change everything. His name, Yusuf ibn Ayyub. History would call him Saladin. Saladin was Kurdish, born into a military family. His father, Najm ad-Din Ayyub, served the Turkish ruler Zengi. His uncle, Shirkuh, was a powerful general. Contemporary sources suggest Saladin wasn't particularly ambitious as a young man. He preferred religious studies to military training. His early life gave no hint he would become the greatest Muslim commander of his age. But destiny, or his family, had other plans. His uncle Shirkuh would drag him into the politics of Egypt. And there, everything would change. Egypt, the prize everyone wanted, wealthy, populous, strategically crucial. The Fatimid Caliphate ruled there, but they were weak. The Crusaders wanted Egypt. The Syrian Muslims wanted Egypt. And Shirkuh wanted to secure it first. Saladin didn't want to go to Egypt. Sources tell us he resisted. But his uncle insisted. It's one of history's great ironies. The man who would unite the Muslim world against the Crusaders was dragged into his destiny unwillingly. In 1169, Uncle Shirkuh died suddenly. The Syrian army needed a new commander in Egypt. They chose the nephew, Saladin, age 31, reluctant, untested. He would prove to be anything but ordinary. Saladin now held a poisoned chalice. He commanded Syrian troops in Egypt, served a dying Fatimid caliph, and owed loyalty to his overlord in Syria, Nur ad-Din. One wrong move meant death. Saladin's genius was political as much as military. He had to balance competing interests: Sunni Syrians, Shiite Fatimids, Christian Crusaders, and his own ambitions. He played the game masterfully. The Fatimid Caliph died in 1171. Saladin abolished the Fatimid dynasty and returned Egypt to Sunni Islam. He was now Sultan of Egypt, but his overlord, Nur ad-Din, was watching nervously. Nur ad-Din expected obedience. Saladin gave excuses. He claimed Egypt wasn't ready for Nur ad-Din to visit. He delayed. He deflected. He was becoming independent. When Nur ad-Din died in 1174, it removed Saladin's biggest obstacle. Within weeks, Saladin marched into Damascus. He claimed to be protecting Nur ad-Din's young son. In reality, he was taking over. By 1174, at age 36, Saladin controlled Egypt and Syria. He had become the most powerful Muslim ruler in the region. But power wasn't his goal. His goal was Jerusalem. But first, he had to unite the fractured Muslim world. And that would take 12 years of brutal fighting against other Muslims. The Muslim world was shattered. Rival dynasties, competing cities, brothers fought brothers, and some Muslims even allied with Christian crusaders against other Muslims. This is the uncomfortable truth. Saladin spent more time fighting fellow Muslims than fighting crusaders. The Zingid dynasty in Mosul opposed him. The assassins tried to kill him twice. Damascus had to be taken by force. Unity came at the point of a sword. The assassins, a radical Shi'ite sect, saw Saladin as a threat. They infiltrated his camp twice. The first time, Saladin's armor saved him. The second time, his bodyguards barely stopped the blade. These weren't random attacks. They were funded by rival Muslims who feared Saladin's growing power. The path to unity was soaked in Muslim blood. Saladin justified this by claiming he needed unity to face the Crusaders. And he was right. A divided Muslim world couldn't challenge the Crusader states. But the cost was high. Cities besieged, rivals eliminated. This was realpolitik, medieval style. By 1186, after 12 years of war and diplomacy, Saladin had done it. Egypt, Syria, northern Mesopotamia, Yemen, all under his control. The Muslim world was united. Finally, now he could turn his attention to his true target, the Crusader kingdoms, and one city above all, Jerusalem. But Saladin didn't start this war. A Crusader lord did. His name, Raynald of Chatillon, and he was about to give Saladin the excuse he needed. Raynald of Chatillon was everything Saladin wasn't: impulsive, brutal, and strategically blind. He repeatedly violated truces, attacked Muslim caravans, even threatened to attack Mecca itself. He was a walking provocation. In 1186, Raynald attacked a Muslim caravan. Not just any caravan, it included Saladin's sister. This was personal. This was the final straw. Saladin declared jihad. Not conquest, not expansion. Jihad, holy war, in response to broken truces and attacks on pilgrims. This was war with religious justification. The concept of jihad had been relatively dormant in the Muslim world. Saladin revived it brilliantly. He framed the coming war not as his personal vendetta, but as a defense of Islam, a liberation of Jerusalem, a response to Crusader aggression. It was masterful propaganda, and it worked. In the spring of 1187, Saladin assembled the largest Muslim army seen in decades. 30,000 men, cavalry from Egypt, infantry from Syria, volunteers from across the Islamic world, all united under one banner, all marching toward one goal. The Crusader kingdoms had 1,200 knights and 18,000 soldiers. On paper, not terrible odds. But they were about to make a catastrophic mistake. July 1187. The heat was unbearable, and into this furnace, the Crusader army was about to march. Saladin had laid a trap. He besieged Tiberias, knowing the Crusaders would have to respond. The question was, how would they respond? The Crusaders debated. Raymond of Tripoli, the experienced commander, argued for patience. Don't march in the summer heat. Don't fight on Saladin's terms. But Raynald and others accused him of cowardice. King Guy, weak and indecisive, sided with the Hawks. On July 3rd, the Crusader army marched, full armor, no water sources, towards Saladin's waiting army. It was exactly what Saladin wanted. Saladin's cavalry harassed them constantly, never committing to full battle, just wearing them down, denying them water, driving them toward the horns of Hattin. Saladin even had his men set fire to the dry grass, filling the air with smoke, adding psychological warfare to physical exhaustion. The Crusaders were already defeated before the main battle began. July 4th, 1187. Dawn broke on one of history's most decisive battles. The Crusaders were trapped, exhausted, dying of thirst. Saladin's army surrounded them completely. The battle was a slaughter. Crusader knights, too exhausted to fight effectively, were overwhelmed. The infantry broke and fled. King Guy's tent fell. The true cross, Christianity's most sacred relic, was captured. By noon, it was over. The Crusader army was destroyed. King Guy, Raynald of Chatillon, and hundreds of knights were prisoners. The path to Jerusalem was open. What happened next would become legend. In Saladin's tent, 2 captured Crusaders awaited their fate: King Guy of Jerusalem and Raynald of Chatillon. Saladin offered water to King Guy. In Arab culture, this was significant. Offering hospitality meant granting safety. Guy drank and then passed the cup to Raynald. But Saladin stopped him. "You did not ask my permission to give him water," he said. That water carried no protection for Raynald. Saladin addressed Raynald directly, listing his crimes: the violated truces, the murdered pilgrims, the attacks on Muslim caravans. Then Saladin did something rare for him. He personally executed Raynald. One source says he struck him twice. Others say once. But the message was clear: violations have consequences. King Guy thought he was next. But Saladin reassured him: kings do not kill kings. But that man had crossed all bounds. This scene tells us everything about Saladin's character. He followed rules, even in war. Guy had royal status and had done nothing personally to violate truces, so he lived. Raynald had repeatedly broken agreements and attacked innocents, so he died. This wasn't barbarism. This was justice, medieval style. With the Crusader army destroyed, their cities fell like dominoes. Acre, Sidon, Beirut, Jaffa, Ascalon. Some surrendered immediately. Others fell after brief sieges. Saladin was methodical. He secured the coast. He cut off potential reinforcements from Europe. He isolated Jerusalem. And then, in September 1187, he stood before its walls. September 20th, 1187. Saladin's army surrounded Jerusalem. Inside, 60,000 people. Most were civilians, women, children, refugees from conquered cities. The fighting men numbered perhaps 6,000. Surrender was inevitable. The question was, on what terms? Balian of Ibelin was in an impossible position. He couldn't win. He had too few soldiers, too many civilians to protect. His only leverage was threatening to destroy the city, including its Muslim holy sites, if Saladin stormed the walls. Balian sent a message: if you storm the city, we will destroy the Dome of the Rock, kill all Muslim prisoners, and fight to the death. It will cost you dearly. Saladin faced a choice. He could storm the city, win relatively quickly, but lose many soldiers and potentially see Jerusalem's holy sites damaged. Or he could negotiate. What's remarkable is that Saladin chose negotiation. He had every right by medieval law to sack the city. The residents had refused his initial surrender demand, but he chose mercy. This decision would define his legacy. The terms: every person in Jerusalem could leave safely if they paid a ransom. 10 dinars for a man, 5 for a woman, 1 for a child. Those who couldn't pay would become slaves, standard practice in medieval warfare. Balian made a plea. Thousands can't pay. What happens to them? Saladin's response shocked everyone. He would free 7,000 poor people at his own expense. His brother Aladil asked to free another 1,000 as a gift. Other Muslim commanders followed suit. Thousands who should have become slaves walked free. October 2nd, 1187. After 40 days of negotiation, Jerusalem's gates opened. Not in blood, but in an ordered evacuation. Families walking out with their possessions. Muslim soldiers maintaining order, preventing looting. Contemporary sources, including Christian ones, marveled at Saladin's conduct. No massacre, no looting, no rape. The contrast with 1099 was stark and deliberate. Saladin was making a statement. We are better than you were. Christian holy sites were protected. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre remained open to Christian pilgrims. Saladin even assigned Muslim guards to prevent looting of Christian areas. Saladin entered Jerusalem on foot, humbly, and went directly to the Dome of the Rock, the third holiest site in Islam, occupied for 88 years, now liberated. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, which Crusaders had turned into a palace and stable, was cleansed. It took days to wash away the defacement. Then it was reconsecrated. For the first time in nearly 9 decades, the Muslim call to prayer echoed from Jerusalem's walls. What's remarkable is what Saladin didn't do. No victory massacre, no forced conversions, no enslavement of those who paid ransom. Even the poorest Christians who couldn't pay were often freed by his commander's charity. This was unprecedented mercy by medieval standards. But there was controversy. Some of Saladin's own commanders criticized him. They saw freed slaves as lost wealth. They saw mercy as weakness. Saladin had chosen honor over profit. It would cost him. News of Jerusalem's fall hit Europe like an earthquake. Pope Urban III allegedly died of shock. Church bells rang in mourning. And 3 of Europe's most powerful kings took the cross. Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip Augustus of France, and Frederick Barbarossa of Germany. The Third Crusade would be the largest yet. 3 kings, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, unlimited resources, all aimed at one goal: retake Jerusalem. The European response was massive. This wasn't just about Jerusalem. It was about Christian pride, about revenge for Hattin, about proving that Christendom could strike back. Saladin had won the battle. Now came the war. The Crusaders didn't march directly to Jerusalem. They besieged Acre, a strategic port city. But Saladin besieged the besiegers, creating one of medieval history's strangest military situations, a city under siege, surrounded by besiegers who were themselves surrounded. For 2 years, Acre became a hell. Disease killed more than combat. Saladin couldn't break the Crusader siege. The Crusaders couldn't break through Saladin's counter-siege. Stalemate, until Richard the Lionheart arrived. Richard the Lionheart was everything Saladin wasn't. Impulsive, brutal, personally fearless, but strategically reckless. When Acre's Muslim garrison finally surrendered in 1191, Richard did something that shocked even his own men. He executed 2,700 Muslim prisoners in cold blood when their ransom was delayed. Richard's massacre of the Acre prisoners was a war crime even by medieval standards. Saladin had shown mercy at Jerusalem. Richard responded with brutality at Acre. The contrast couldn't be clearer, and it hardened the war. Richard marched south toward Jerusalem. Saladin harassed him constantly, trying to lure him into another Hattin. But Richard was too disciplined. At Arsuf in September 1191, they finally met in open battle. Saladin's cavalry charges broke against Richard's formation. The Crusaders won decisively, but Richard couldn't exploit the victory. His army was too exhausted, his supplies too limited. Jerusalem remained just out of reach. Twice, Richard marched to within sight of Jerusalem. Twice he turned back. He knew the truth. Even if he took the city, he couldn't hold it. Not against Saladin's inevitable counterattack. Saladin couldn't defeat Richard. Richard couldn't take Jerusalem. Both sides were exhausted. Both had fought to a draw. Something had to give. In September 1192, Richard and Saladin negotiated peace. The Treaty of Jaffa left Jerusalem in Muslim hands, but Christian pilgrims could visit freely. The coastal cities were divided. Both sides claimed victory. The treaty wasn't a victory for either side. It was mutual exhaustion. But it showed something important. These two great warriors, through intermediaries, had developed genuine respect for each other. They never met face to face, but they understood each other. Saladin returned to Damascus. He was 55 years old, but looked ancient. Decades of war, stress, and constant campaigning had broken his health. When Saladin died on March 4th, 1193, his treasurer found an almost empty treasury. Saladin had given away his wealth to the poor, to soldiers, to causes. He left barely enough to pay for his funeral. Saladin's poverty at death tells us everything. He could have been one of the richest men in the world. Instead, he died nearly penniless, because he believed his wealth belonged to his people, not himself. This is why he became legendary. Something remarkable happened after Saladin's death. His enemies became his greatest admirers. Christian chroniclers praised his chivalry. Dante placed him in the first circle of hell with the virtuous pagans, the highest honor a medieval Christian could give a Muslim. Saladin became the model of chivalric virtue, even in Christian Europe. He was the good Muslim, brave, honorable, merciful. This was partly romanticization, but was based on real actions. His conduct at Jerusalem really did stand in stark contrast to the Crusader conduct in 1099. In the modern Middle East, Saladin became a symbol of resistance, of Muslim unity, of standing against Western powers. Leaders from Nasser to Saddam Hussein claimed his mantle. Streets, universities, cities bear his name. Today, Saladin's tomb in Damascus welcomes visitors of all faiths. Just as he protected Christian sites in Jerusalem, Christians protect his memory in Damascus. His legacy transcends religion. What can we learn from Saladin? That mercy can be strategic. That honor matters, even in war. That your enemies can become your greatest admirers if you fight with principle. Saladin wasn't perfect. He fought fellow Muslims for years before fighting Crusaders. He could be ruthless when needed. Raynald's execution proves that. But in an age of extraordinary brutality, he stood out for his relative mercy. That's why he's remembered. In 1187, Saladin stood before Jerusalem with absolute power. He could have ordered revenge for 1099. His soldiers expected it. History expected it. Instead, he chose mercy. Not weakness, mercy. And in that choice, he won something greater than a city. He won immortality. Saladin died 830 years ago. His empire fragmented within a generation. The Crusaders returned briefly to Jerusalem. His political achievements crumbled, but his legend endures. Because in an age of holy war, he showed that holiness and war don't have to mean massacre. In an age of religious hatred, he showed respect for enemy faiths. In an age of brutal conquest, he showed that mercy can be stronger than the sword. We need Saladin's example today more than ever. Not the warrior, we have plenty of those, but the merciful victor, the one who could have taken revenge and chose grace, the one who understood that how you win matters as much as whether you win. Jerusalem remains contested. The wounds of the Crusades have never fully healed, but Saladin's example persists. That even in conflict, humanity is possible. That even in war, honor matters. That victory with mercy is the only victory that lasts. On October 2nd, 1187, Saladin took Jerusalem, but he won it through mercy, and in doing so, he didn't just capture a city. He captured history's imagination, and 830 years later, we're still telling his story. The warrior who recaptured Jerusalem and won it forever. Thank you for watching this documentary till the end. We hope you gained something from this. This documentary strives for historical accuracy, but medieval sources often conflict. Where historical debate exists, we have presented the most widely accepted scholarly interpretation while acknowledging uncertainty. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching till the end.